Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empower Hour. My name is Keisha Cox. For those of you who don't know me, I am a licensed clinical social worker and a holistic mental health coach. I have a background in cognitive behavioral therapy, yoga therapy, Ayurvedic nutrition, and Reiki healing. So I'm also the founder of the Wellness Connection, and we strive to make mental health accessible for everyone with the goal of connecting mind, body, and spirit. So we have a range of programs. We started off with just posting on Instagram during the pandemic to sort of support people getting through whatever it is they were going through. And then we started with yoga in the park. And since then, we've expanded, adding yoga on Zoom. We have self-care Sundays where we meet every month to talk about different aspects of self-care and healing. I also offer group mental health coaching, holistic mental health coaching, individual mental health coaching, and individual therapy. So I have here with me today Dawn Spann and Desireee Gomez, and we're going to be focusing on relationship health. Dawn Spann is our breakup coach, and Desireee Gomez is our relationship coach. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you about what they do and give you some tidbits and see if you have any questions and anything you want to talk about today. So we'll start with Desireee.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So my name's Desireee, and I'm a certified relationship coach. I became a coach for so many reasons, but I was just that person in my family and in my friends group that everyone went to for any type of advice, any type of guidance, specifically in relationships. I mean, I didn't mean for it to happen. It just kind of came to me. And I end up being able to give my family members and friends useful and helpful advice. So the reason I chose relationships specifically is just because I feel like I've dealt with each type of guy. I've have past relationships that weren't healthy. So at one point I was dealing with, a narcissist who I actually have a child with. And he used to try to make me feel like no one else would want me because I have a child. I've dealt with the emotionally unavailable guy who strung me along, like knowing he didn't want the same things as me. The insecure guy who literally used to throw out my clothes and get upset if I did anything without him. And just the type of guy that like projects all their trauma onto you and then they try to spin it around and make you feel crazy. So overall, just guys that never, didn't respect my boundaries. And at the time, I didn't really know my worth. And I used to feel like I needed validation from someone to feel special. And it took me going on my own journey, learning just self love, self respect, really learning what I wanted and setting boundaries with people. It wasn't really until then that I had a whole shift in my day-to-day relationships, not even like my romantic relationships, but just like my own personal relationships with my friends and family. So it all kind of, comes to play, and all of it, I've learned so much. So it's really important to me, just because women's health, it's not something that's talked about enough just in general. We're not taught in school, how relationships should be. And a lot of us, we grow up with, not the best examples of what a relationship should look like. I grew up personally in a home with a single mom, two siblings, and I didn't grow up with the best examples of what healthy love should look like and what it should be. So I knew from a very young age that I wanted, different. So what I do is I help women stay out of toxic relationships. I created an 8-week program. So I help women set and maintain healthy boundaries in their relationships. I help them create and build better and healthier relationships with themselves so that they're able to go into a relationship as, the better version of themselves. They're able to set healthy boundaries with their partners because they now discovered their value and they have self-worth and they're taking care of themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. So they just gain more self-respect, confidence, and they learn how to better communicate like their wants and needs to a partner. So that's what I do. And I'm going to touch on some topics too, but I'm going to go ahead and let Dawn go ahead and introduce herself and what she does.
Hi, I'm Dawn, and I am the breakup coach. I'm also a licensed social worker. I'm not like Des. No one came to me for advice or anything, so that's not how I got into this. But so with me, I decided to focus on helping women move on and get over their ex after breakups because I was in a relationship. It wasn't a healthy relationship at that, and when we broke up, I was devastated. And there were certain things that I was doing and certain patterns and keeping in contact with him and being strung along and just not really even allowing myself to meet other people because I was so hooked or addicted on him. I went to therapy, I went to a trauma coach, and it just didn't really speak to specifically to what I was dealing with. And I'm not going to say it wasn't helpful in other parts of my life, but with this particular problem, it didn't get me to where I needed to be. So I became a breakup coach because I feel like I needed a me back then. I needed someone to speak specifically to what I was going through, and just to kind of help me move along. One of the most important things in breaking up is the loss aspect. And I feel like if you don't deal with that and the stages of grief, it's kind of hard to move on, period. So because a breakup is a loss. So what I do, I have a 10-week program and I help women move on and get over their ex for good. And so that's what I do. And I think Desireee is gonna just share some tips with us and some information about healthy relationships and versus unhealthy relationships.
Yes. So I just have a few points I want to touch on, just about toxic relationships, setting boundaries, prioritizing your wants and needs, learning self-love, and how do you know when it's time to leave an unhealthy relationship? So I'm just going to go right into it. So does anybody know, or can anybody define what a toxic relationship is, or what does that look like? Okay, so what a toxic relationship is, it's when two people don't communicate or relate to one another in a healthy way. So conflict arises easier. The negative emotions outweigh the positive ones. The relationship itself is just emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausting. So some signs to know that you're in one: you feel unworthy, you feel alone, you and your partner tend to bring out the worst in each other. You may feel like your needs are being ignored. You just feel that there's just like no mutual respect, and you might even feel stuck. So we stay in them longer than we should, because I'm sorry?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we stay in them longer than we should, because we cling on to the potential of someone. We downplay our problems. Sometimes it may be because we're afraid of being alone. So we choose to ignore those red flags, or we have that belief, that we can change someone. And in reality, you really just can't. So this is where boundaries come in and why they're extremely important. So the definition of a boundary is just a line that marks your limits, what you won't and what you will allow. So this, it's essential in building a healthy relationship. So in having boundaries, it leaves no room for any misinterpretation, doubt, and no question in your intentions in your relationship. So this is how you start creating the foundation to have a healthy relationship. So when you set boundaries, the things you and your partner need are validated and spoken for. So we can talk more about that like towards the end, if anyone has any more has any questions on that. And I also touch on that in my program too. So prioritizing your wants and needs. I know I'm guilty of this, being a people pleaser. Yeah, so I want to make sure like everyone else around me is good or they're okay. Or I'm always just kind of scared, or I used to always just kind of be scared of like disappointing someone or like looking like I'm the bad person, you know? So I learned how to break out of this cycle by being more assertive, not beating around the bush. So it is a constant practice, and as long as you're aware of it, you can get better at sticking up for yourself, and speaking on what you want and what you need. So we also have to be, our biggest advocates. We have to be the ones to put our foot down. And if we don't love and respect ourselves, how is anybody, we're in a relationship going to? So I touch in my program also about learning self-love, and in doing that, you learn to stop settling. So to me, there's just something extremely empowering about becoming more aware of yourself. So for me, becoming more aware of what triggers me and what I needed out of a partner, and how I can really learning how I give and take love. A few things that I've done to start practicing self-love is gratitude journaling, just being more present. I work on having more of a positive mindset. And that in doing that, it's helped like change my limited beliefs to where something I thought was okay and I just kind of settled for, because I genuinely thought like, okay, maybe it's not a bad thing that they want to do everything with me or only want to hang out with me. Maybe that's what love is. Maybe that's what being in a relationship is, when in reality it's not. So what I mean more so by like the limited beliefs is taking away that negative. So like, I can't because of X, Y, and Z mentality. Like I can't leave that because of, again, I didn't want to be alone. No one else is going to want me, So that's having a victim mindset. And what it did was it avoided me taking self-responsibility. So we have full control of our lives and our relationships, and we have to take accountability for the things that we've allowed. And that was a big thing for me. So when you take accountability for your part in any toxic relationship that you're in, and work on how you can move forward, you really do become a better version of yourself and you grow. So it's really more of a learning experience. Like I don't take any relationship that I've ever been in, toxic or not, as like a loss. I've always thought of it as, okay, this is now a learning experience for me, and how am I going to grow and be better because of it? So when you master that, that self-control and that kind of self-respect, you can literally do anything. So how do we know it's time to leave an unhealthy relationship? To a lot of people, verbal abuse isn't a deal breaker. Someone calling you out your name, somebody, disrespecting you on a daily basis, just not really hearing you. A lot of times people just kind of think, oh, it's not that bad. And I've dealt with clients, and I even have friends that are like, oh, well, they're this and that, but you know what? He does do this, so maybe he's just not that bad. So obviously, if there's any form of abuse, like physical, you definitely should leave. But mental, verbal, and emotional abuse is the most common in relationships. And in any of that, you honestly should leave as well. But it's time to walk away from that person and relationship when it's no longer serving you. It's not putting you in a healthy space. Your relationship should be like a safe place. And it took me a long time to get that. So when you have to act like someone else to please them, or when you feel like they have like these high expectations of how you're supposed to be, when you can't trust them, you should definitely leave. When you can't communicate in a healthy, productive way, that's a big one. Which is where I talked about or mentioned the name calling. You know, you should never call your partner out of their name and then in the same breath be like, I love you. Like that's a serious issue. And again, it's so normalized. So yeah, just things like that. You know, when you feel like you're not heard, you're not growing, you know, it's really hard to let go of a relationship, especially, you know, one, if you've been in it for, you know, people think, oh, I've already been here for 6 months, I've already been here for a year, like I've already invested so much time in this person, you know. So these become these objectives and why they stay. I I personally have seen people stay in relationships way longer than they should and then kind of kick themselves in the butt later, like, you know what, I knew I should have left, you know. But it takes that self journey and finding, you know, that self love and really putting yourself first, to get there. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Dawn. Thanks for listening. And if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them at the end.
Thank you, Des. So I'm going to kind of pick up where you left off. So let's just say you get to a point where you do want to leave. And there are different types of breakups and people respond. Everyone responds differently to a breakup. But what do we see on social media when people break up? We see this a lot. We see the girl that tries to slash the tires, or the guy that like pops up on a date. Or one video, I saw a girl where she dropped the guy off with his stuff, and when he got out the car, she tried to run him over, and she actually crashed her car into a building. So I saw that one on Instagram. So I think in the moment, those are the things that you want to do, but they're the least productive, and you don't want to go to jail because there's cameras everywhere. So it's like, it's not worth it. So the do's and don'ts of breaking up. So I have a list, like, don't destroy his things. Don't attack him. And I see this a lot where people post it on social media. That's a don't, because I see the nastiest videos on social media. And once you put it up there and your friends and family and his friends and family see it, you cannot take it down because someone has already screenshot what you put up and everybody's all in your business. Don't, and I know this is hard, don't take advice from people who are not in healthy relationships. So we all have friends who have their own issues in their relationship, and that's not to judge them or whatever, but they're giving you advice on things that they would do when they're not in a healthy space themselves. So don't do that. Don't fixate on what went wrong, because you never really know. Like sometimes you will know, but other times it's just like you may not get an honest answer from that person about why they don't want to be with you anymore, or why they changed, or why they stopped being consistent. And then don't turn to drugs or alcohol. I know people that will start partying hard when they break up. They're like, "Ooh, I'm free." And they're in the club every night. They are neglecting work. They're neglecting their responsibilities because they want to hang out, they want to drink, they want to party. And they do this in an attempt to kind of numb themselves. Don't do the whole rebound guy thing. I know I see some people, they will end a relationship and jump right into a new one. And they'll swear they're in love with this new guy. And it's just like, we know that's the rebound guy. And I think one important thing not to do is to keep in contact with your ex, because your ex may just like having access to you. He may like the benefits that come along with being in contact with you, but it doesn't mean that anything has changed. And so he or she may give you hope that you guys have a future. They may tell you things that they know are not true just to keep you with them. And also it makes them feel good because it lets them know that you're still interested. So they may keep in contact with you so they can have sex with you or use your car, or when something goes wrong in their new relationship, you're like the fallback person. And that's not the role that you want to be in. So those are the don'ts. And something else that Desireee touched on is sometimes we stay a little bit too long. So Desireee, I wanted to ask you, how long is too long?
Oof. So say, honestly, I say, like, if you see someone or you're dating someone and you see at least like 3 red flags within a like month to 3 month period, you need to go. Like, there's no reason for you to stay 6 months. Oh, let me feel it. Like, too long is that long. Like 6 months, a year. I personally have seen someone stay in a relationship for 8 years. And then another one 5 years. I know someone else. They were in a relationship for 10 years before they got married. The marriage lasted 3 months and she was out. Yeah. So I just feel like when somebody starts to show you who they are, like, listen to them. They are actively showing you who they are, especially when you get, like, they're rude to the waitress. If that's something you're like, oh, that's, okay, mark it down. Remember that, so that when things do present themselves like 6 months to a year. So I feel like you should like kind of know, all right, this can go somewhere within like a 3 month, period, before you really like get serious with someone. So yeah, I definitely say within like that 6 month to a year time frame. Like, no, it's too long.
So we learned the other day a saying that our friend says,
Yep.
for the first 90 days of a relationship, you're dating the person's representative. So for the first 90 days, they're on their best behavior. They're pulling out chairs, they're opening doors, they're really polite. So usually before you guys have sex, they're this amazing person. They're nice to everyone. They speak about everyone nice. They treat you well. But then after 90 days, like, the mask comes off and then you get to see the true person.
Yep.
So they pass probation. That probationary period.
Yes, right. Like when you get a new job, you're like, I passed probation. I can start coming in late now. So I think that has some truth to it.
Definitely.
The first 90 days. Yeah. So sometimes you'll hear people say, I'm just so addicted to him. Like, there's something about him. I just can't like get away from him. I can't stop talking to him. And it feels weird. It feels funny to almost feel like you're so attached to someone, like you're so addicted to them. But you are not crazy. It happens. Breakups are similar to like detoxing from drugs. So one thing that we do in my program is we have a detox phase, because sometimes when you talk to your ex, it causes all these chemicals to flow to your brain, like the dopamine, the serotonin, and it causes these feelings. So we like to call it the detox process, where there's no contact with your ex, and just to sort of get used to that. And it feels uncomfortable at first. Of course, you think about the person, you miss the person, you want to be with the person, but I promise you, it does get easier as time goes on.
I have a question. When you say no contact, does that include scrolling through their social media page?
That is especially going through their social media page. Actually, that is a don't as well, because I know a lot of people create these fake pages, like they'll have their second or their third Facebook page or Instagram page, and then they'll use that page to spy on the other page. Like, we've all been there. So that is also part of the detox process, because you can't really get healthy in that environment that was so unhealthy. So it does include that, yes. So another reason why people stay is because it feels comfortable. So if you grew up in a home, like Desireee was saying, where she didn't get healthy examples of relationships, and you were in a home where the relationships that you were around were unhealthy, you tend to gravitate towards that. And so when you're in an unhealthy relationship, it feels like home, it feels normal, it feels right, until it doesn't. So a lot of times that's why people find themselves staying in these situations, because toxicity might feel normal for them and comfortable. The other reason I know that people stay a little bit too long is because they only fantasize about the good times. And so sometimes we want to feel good. Like, we don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to be sad and depressed. So we fantasize about all the good times. We fantasize about the times we went on vacation, the times maybe we have a child together, like the times that our child was born. We focus on the things that tend to make us feel good, while neglecting all the things that are unhealthy, all the abuse or toxicity or disrespect. We tend not to think about those things. So another thing that we go through are the stages of grief. And the reason why we do that is because when you break up with someone, it is a loss. And I feel like a lot of times your friends and your family don't really validate that loss. They make comments like, oh, you're just better off without him, or who cares, you'll just find someone else, or we didn't like him anyway, or whatever. And they don't take it serious that you really did lose someone, right? Like, you may have lost someone that you confided in, or somebody that you shared an experience with, or you may have lost the breadwinner in your family because he or she was paying on the bills. So like, your whole life is going to be different now that this person is not here. And you kind of have to know, or have to learn how to deal with going through that loss. And then one of the last things that we focus on in my program is, how do you prepare for a new relationship? And I always say, start by working on you, which is the reason why it's important not to jump into a whole brand new relationship without working on you. So what does that mean, working on you? That means looking at you and deciding where you want to go next. What do you want to do? I think a lot of times when we get in relationships, we make this person the center of our world. And like, everything revolves around that person. And we've neglected other parts of ourselves, right? Like, so what are your goals? What are things that you want to work on? What is something that you've been wanting to try that you've never tried before? What do you want to learn? What do you want to experience with somebody? Like, what do you want? And then some questions that I ask is, how do you want to feel in your next relationship? What are you going to accept? What are you going to tolerate? What are you not going to tolerate? Are you clear on what you want in a partner? Because we say we want certain things, and then we pick the exact opposite. Like, we say we want a man that is attentive, and that is sensitive, and that is thoughtful. And then we pick the biggest scumbag, and we're just like, how did that happen? Like, this is not what I wanted. How did I end up? So just like dating on purpose, like being intentional. And then I'm a big believer in writing everything down. I know Desireee does this too. Like, write it down. What do you want? So when you go on that first, second, third date, you can look and you could be like, no, that's not going to work, because this is something that's my core value and he doesn't align with that. Like, be clear, how to get clear on what you want. And just basically reflecting back, like, is this really what I want? So those are some of the things. And then one thing we do is we discuss like, what are your beliefs about relationships? And I know Desireee touched on this a little bit too. If you have a belief that all men are dogs, then you're only going to meet the dogs and you're always going to be with a dog. If you have a belief that I'm never going to find anybody that's as good as my ex or something like that, then that's as high as you're going to go. You're only going to get like someone that's just like your ex. So what kind of beliefs do you have about relationships? And a lot of our beliefs come from our own childhood. So whether your belief is helpful or not, it will play a role in how you choose who you date, how you date, and things like that. So just like realizing what beliefs you had. If you have a belief that, oh, I'm too skinny or I'm overweight, nobody's gonna want you, then you may just end up settling for the next guy that walks by that wants you because you have that belief that's unhealthy and it's not true. So we kind of go through things like that. Anyone else have like beliefs or anything that they've heard of or anything like that?
I think a lot of people believe that relationships just don't work.
Right.
Yeah. So what's the point? You know, what's the point of trying? What's the point of looking? It's all fairy tale.
And some people, and I hear women say this and I'm like, that's crazy. Some people have beliefs that all men cheat. And I'm like, no, that's not true. So because you have that belief, you will find every single guy that you've been with cheated on you because that's what you believe. So we kind of identify and challenge those beliefs and see where they came from. And most of the time they're not true.
So what if you come from an environment that you never see like positive, healthy relationships that work? How do you change this view that it's possible? How do you change your belief to start saying, you know what, it is possible. It's not a fantasy. It's not a fairy tale. Like they do exist.
So for me anyway, I know that I had it in my head and I just lost it. So in order to change those beliefs, if you want something different, you have to do something different. You have to step out of your comfort zone and you have to, I think your question was, you said, how do you get out of that belief that you're never going to have a healthy relationship? Is that your question?
Yeah, well, that it's a possibility at all that they exist, not even just for you, but for anybody.
So it's really just changing your mindset about it. Like kind of Don was touching on, like if you believe, if you believe every guy cheats, that's what's going to happen. So if you go into something or just even consider a partner, like, you're already negative about it. So just change it, even just being a little bit more optimistic or positive about it. It can change so much. Like I used to literally be like, men disgust me, like, ew, I can't, especially after dealing, my son's 6 now. And just like that whole experience that I even dealt with, when I was pregnant and, had my son and everything, it like traumatized me to the point where I was literally like, I wanted to like throw up at the sight of like, so I just feel like it took me kind of putting my walls down and being like, okay, you know what? Yes, this happened to me. It sucked. It genuinely did. And it was the hardest hardest time I've ever had, like just in general, in any relationship, but I grew from it and I became better for it, so after that, looking at relationships, I was always optimistic. Like I do genuinely believe that there is someone for everyone. So that wasn't my person. That's fine, but I've always continued to go into other relationships with that positive mindset, even though I ended up dealing with insecure guy, one, literally I had an ex-boyfriend who would throw out man. I'm like, do you know what happened to my shorts? No, I don't know. All right. So, and then just also dealing with someone too who literally didn't even know what they want for like a year. I was like, I don't understand. Like, what do you want out of this? You know? So, and he could never give me a straight answer. Literally, I just became disgusted with it all. But I remained optimistic and I remained like positive, like, okay, there's not that person. It's just not that person. And now I'm in almost a year and a half and it's a really healthy relationship. Like, I almost didn't know how to react. Like he was like, let me do this. Can I bring you? And I was like, whoa, that's too much. But I was like, no, you can't be like that. So it's just, I think overall, it's just remaining optimistic and keeping that positive mindset. Even if it doesn't work out, you're going to learn something anyway, you
So do
know?
you think using some positive self-talk like helps with that,
Definitely.
with the
Definitely.
mindset change?
And I know Desireee and I both, we do like daily or weekly mindset work. And I think that, like she said earlier, those are things that it's not taught in class, it's not taught in school, it's not taught in college. So how do we even know to do it? But I think mindset work, I know we both do gratitude journals, emotional dumps, and actually like writing out your beliefs, right? Because sometimes when you see things on paper, it gives you a chance to analyze it and evaluate it and actually compare it to the truth. And you shine a light on it, and then you see that it's not true. So I think the mindset work and just challenging beliefs is something that'll help you get to a point where you can say, well, no, I know now that this is not true. And this is something that we do with clients. Like the things that I ask the clients to do are the same things that I do. So the mindset work and all of that, whatever assignment I give them, either I've done it or it's something that I do as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I always look at it like, if I can't actually do it myself, how am I going to tell, like basically be a hypocrite and tell someone else, hey, yeah, do this. And, but writing things out. So for me, what I did, and what I actually do have my clients do, and I feel like it just gives you clarity, and it's again, right in front of your face. So I actually had made so not my current relationship, but my last relationship, I had created a list on my phone, my notes, just of what I felt like I wasn't getting out of the relationship. And the list isn't short. It was like this long. And even when we split up, I kept that list, and it made it easier. So once it was in my face, it kind of made it easier for me to stray away from that relationship, to finally be like, no, like this is in your face. Like, this is what it is. It's extremely one-sided. They don't consider you in any future plans. It's always I this, I that. It's never us. It's not, and I kept it. And I looked at that almost every day, to where when it got bad, I was like, it's okay if you need to let this go. I'm going to be okay with or without it. And I needed to see it in my face. And I actually still have it till this day, because I know what I will never settle for again. So I keep that if I need a reminder of like a moment where I'm having like an overthinking issue, or I'm like thinking about something in my head that maybe my partner did that bothered me. And I'm thinking about not speaking up about it. And I read that, I'm like, no, you're going to speak up about it, because it matters how you feel. I used to feel like closed off, like I couldn't express myself in my past relationships. And when I got into this current relationship that I'm in, from day one, I was like, this is what it's going to be. Like, if I need to say something, I'm going to say it. If I'm feeling some way, I'm going to say it. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to, but you're going to listen. You're going to hear me, because I just, you feel when you bottle things up, you grow resentment in your relationships, or, you end up just not liking them, so I've learned so much just throughout like this journey, and definitely the list thing is a lifesaver.
Yes.
We have a question. We have a question in the chat about mindset changing activities, and the question is, what about voice journaling? Is it
Yes.
just as effective as journaling?
Yes. Yes. I love that. So, just voicing it. I like that too. I feel like sometimes too, I'll say something, it makes sense in my head, and then I'm writing and I'm like, wait, that makes no sense. Versus maybe if I did just say it, it would all kind of flow. But no, yeah, that's just as effective. Definitely.
Yeah.
I have another question. Desiree, you mentioned like something in terms of settling. How do you know the difference between settling and compromising?
When you're compromising more than your partner, when it's all give, 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 and they're like, it has to be equal. It's okay. You can compromise on a couple things, and that's normal. That's fine. But it becomes settling when it's one-sided. You're doing all this and they're doing like nothing. Even the bare minimum, like that's the bare minimum is not effort. Like that's nothing. When you compromise, you're understanding where your partner's coming from. You're like, okay, I can do without this, or okay, we can do this instead of this. You're respecting their view on it. You're understanding to them. It's settling when, again, it's just you. They don't do nothing. And you don't need to settle for that. There's someone out there that will gladly do anything and everything for you.
So compromising is a give and take, and settling is a give.
Yeah. You're getting nothing back. It's like, right. Hello. Yeah. And then that's where the resentment comes in, because then you look at your partner and you're like, what the hell? I gave up all these things, and what are you doing for me? It becomes one-sided then, and it's, usually all focused on one partner and you're not even considered. So.
And I think that goes along with like just evaluating, is this person adding value to my life?
Right.
Like they get this out of me. I'm a great listener. I'm a good homemaker. I'm this, and I do that. But what do I get out of this relationship? Like, am I being fulfilled? Do they add value in my life? And this goes for friendships too. Mm-hmm. I had a friend I recently stopped being friends with because I'm like, you talk my ear off on the phone and I run around and do this and this for you, but I asked you to do X, Y, Z, and you blew me off. So it's like, how many times do we allow that to happen? So you speak up about it, and if it doesn't change, you make the decision, like, you're not really adding value in my life. Like, I don't feel my best when I'm in your presence, So my bestie is on here right now. And when I'm with her, I feel so supported, right? Like she supports me, she supports my business. She's like my biggest cheerleader. She doesn't judge me when we talk. So it's like, if you don't feel that way with that person, you have to kind of see like, what kind of value are you adding to this relationship, friendship, or, intimate relationship?
Right. No, 100%. I feel like in any relationship, friendships and romantic relationships, it's all work. You have to want to be there. You have to actively put in that effort to, be understanding and be open to, listening to your partner and what they need. And you don't necessarily need to, because everybody's so different. And I feel like people go into relationships thinking like, oh, like I'm this way. So, it's just how I am. And and they just like expect their partners to they have this expectation of their partner to be a certain way with them. And in reality, we're two completely different individuals. He may think of things differently. You think of things differently. And there's nothing wrong with it. There is literally nothing wrong with it. The point of having a partner and having that significant other just there with you is to just have some understanding. They don't have to necessarily get it, but they should be there to listen and be like, oh, okay, like I don't really understand what you're talking about, but I'm here. Like not to judge you, not to be like you're crazy, like, or why are you thinking these things, and like trying to downplay your feelings, and make you feel less than, or like your feelings aren't valid. That's when it becomes a problem for sure.
You guys feel free to either ask questions or post it in the chat. I have a few, so I don't want to be the only one asking questions, even though I have questions that I need answered. No. So I'm gonna go ahead, but if you guys have any, just either put them in the chat or feel free to jump in. Dawn, I have a question for you. When you are in a long-term relationship and you break up with your ex, how do you handle the friends and the family that you have in common? Do you have to break up with the family too?
Absolutely. Yes, they're out of here.
Absolutely.
I think it depends. I would at the very least take a break from them, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll keep tabs on the person and they'll tell you. And it's like, you don't need that. You don't need them telling you they started seeing someone else and they don't like the person they're seeing, or you don't need them like telling you. One client, like the ex was doing really bad, and the family will come to her and tell her, and it's like, you don't need that. Like, you're not his keeper. You have no responsibility to him. His family should encourage him to go get help. What can you do? So I think if you set up boundaries and you're like, well, I don't want to talk about this person, and they continue to talk about the person, then you should cut them off. But I think you should express that. But in the beginning, I think it's fine to just like tell people like, I need a break. Or,
Yeah,
you know,
detox.
you remind me of him, and it's not something I can handle right now. So I'm not going to contact you for a month. Please respect that. And then in a month, we'll touch base to see where I am. But I like cutting people off. So I don't think there's anything wrong with cutting people off. But I think there's a way to do it. Like, I don't think you should just ghost them. I think you should have a conversation with them and just let them know how hard it is. Because I don't think people really understand. People struggle when you're still friends with the family member of your ex. It's hard. So, oh, Jamia said snip, snip. Yes.
Yeah.
So I also, one more question for you, Dawn. So when I forgot what you were saying. Oh, you were saying to wait before you get into a relationship, like don't do the rebound thing. So do you suggest maybe dating yourself, and like have any tips about how to do that?
Absolutely. So Desi and I, we were in this program, and one of the challenges was like, you need to go to a restaurant and have lunch or dinner by yourself. And I think for the average person, that is so hard. I do it all the time, but for the average
food,
person,
I don't care. It's food.
yes, I do it all the time. So I think, so that's one of the reasons why we kind of explore like the different life areas, because you need to kind of learn and grow and kind of like explore what you really want. So that's one thing that I would suggest, like take yourself out on dates. Don't just get cute for a guy. Like wake up one morning, go buy a new outfit, or get the outfit that's in the back of the closet that you haven't worn. Get cute. If you wear makeup, put your makeup on, you know, get your hair done and take yourself to the movies, or get a cute workout outfit and go for a walk, like take the dog for a walk, just to be around you. Because I think sometimes people have a hard time being alone, and they get into relationships because it's a distraction. So they don't have to look at the things that they need to work on. So instead of being distracted, like look at you, work on what you want to work on, or just like go back and revisit a goal that you gave up on. But I definitely suggest you date yourself, you go out to dinner by yourself, you go to the movies by yourself, you go to the zoo by yourself. Because if nobody's gonna like you more than you like you. So do it by yourself first.
I kind of want to chime in on that one. So for me, it's more so taking care of myself mentally and physically. I know when I went through a breakup, I actually started doing kickboxing and boxing, and it like changed my life. It was so like freeing for me. And now if I don't like incorporate some type of physical, like I actually now I work out like 6 days a week, but if I don't incorporate something that's like just mine, like for at least an hour, because I also have a child, like I'm gonna go stir crazy. Like I need just something that, you know, takes me away from that thought of that person, or, you know, just something that's only mine. So like definitely picking up a hobby. I actually started painting too, which was really weird for me. I'm not kidding. I bought like a whole canvases all, and it was very therapeutic for me. But just finding something that's just yours and just keep doing it, even on days where I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to do this, I don't want to, like, I'm never like, oh man, I shouldn't have went to that boxing class, like after I feel so good. So it's just, and also too, I'm a big advocate for, like, when you look good you feel good. So like what Dawn was saying, like go out, like go out to eat by yourself, like get dressed up, like even on days when I'm like feeling crappy or not really doing much, I'm like, okay, well, I still gotta, like, do my face a little bit, do my hair so I look like a decent person. I'm just like, all right, take some deep breaths. I'm good. We're gonna just keep pushing today. But yeah, definitely having something for yourself and just, yeah.
We have another question in the chat.
So what if you have attachment issues and you don't know how to be by yourself? I love that question. What are some of the first steps? Okay, so for me personally, I used to be a super like dependent person. I actually have a twin sister. So I was actually born into the world with somebody, where everyone's like, "Oh, I was born into this world alone. I go out alone, I'm fine." So I have codependency issues like no other. So I used to struggle a lot with just the idea of being by myself. And attachment issues. So there's a bunch of different attachment styles, but just how I used to interpret love was somebody literally showing me affection or that attention like all the time. Or I'd be like, they don't care about me, they don't love me, So for me to get out of, what type of, you said have attachment issues, is it just like what kind of attachment? Like you're just like super codependent on them, or like you have an anxious attachment style? Like I kind of want more
I was
about
asking about, like, just how do you
be
get
by
comfortable
yourself.
being by yourself if you're not used to being by yourself, if it's uncomfortable being alone.
Hi.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm the one that asked the question. Hi. So,
Hi.
Okay, so you're saying you don't know how to be by yourself. So have you like always been like in a relationship, or always like, I know a few people that have this issue where even if they're not in a relationship, they're like constantly entertaining somebody just because of, it's a lot of times it really is just a fear of being alone. And honestly, the only way to overcome that is to step out of your comfort zone, get uncomfortable, and do things alone. And
was that what you're referring to, Camilla? Just like the fear of being alone, or the uncomfortability or discomfort with being alone?
I was going to tell her all the above, because I don't have a twin, but I have twin brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So I was taking care of them, I'm taking care of somebody else, I'm taking care of somebody else's kids, and then I grew up, and then I'm in college, and I'm taking care of people around me, and then I come, and I'm always taking care of somebody, or wanting to be, or wanting to help, or
so you're like a natural like nurturer, so it's almost like weird for you not to have somebody to like either cater to or take care of. So kind of like the same concept. So just like get comfortable with the idea or just the thought of being by yourself, like actually it'd be nice to go out for a walk by myself today, or to just kind of hang out and sit in my room and be by myself today. Like I used to struggle, like I would call my friends, and even if I'm just sitting here hanging out watching TV or something, I'd be like, hey, do you want to hang out? And they didn't even have to, we didn't have to be doing anything, she didn't even have to talk to me, but I just liked the company. And I was like, why am I like this? So I really had to like kind of get out of that. I was like, okay, I don't want to be dependent on having somebody there all the time, or just, like how you're saying, you have like that you definitely have like that nurturing, just, and it's natural for you. And so it's normal. So it is a little harder to like break out of that. But definitely, I think just like actively maybe trying to do something by yourself every day, or just get out, practice like talking to yourself, like I'm gonna do this by myself today, and it's fine. Like I know I can, it's good, it's something else I'm gonna get through, it's okay. Just taking those steps, and just having that self-talk, it'll open up, and you open up more and you'll feel more comfortable gradually. But I know it's not easy, and it's not something that's going to change overnight. But yeah, definitely just starting slowly and getting uncomfortable.
So positive self-talk definitely helps, using those affirmations and like Desiree just said, starting slowly. I think, give yourself 5 minutes of alone time. Start with some, not don't take yourself out on a date. Like, don't go to the movies by yourself, for the first time. But maybe like set the goal for like 5 minutes alone time, if that be a walk or sitting and meditating or whatever else. And change is a long process. I mean, if this is the way you've been for, I'm not going to say how long, but a long time, because you're not that young. It's been years and years and years. It's not going to change. It's not going to change overnight. So it does take time to change. So you just have to be patient with the process and trust the process and know that the process is working.
Yeah.
So guys, it's 7:30. So we want to wrap up. I don't know if there's any last minute questions. Throw it in the chat. I'm going to put our couple on the spot that you were getting off easy. we have a couple that has been together. You got to come off mute for, I'm going to get this wrong. How long has it been?
I want to say 6 years.
That's what I was going to say. About 6 years. Yeah.
Oh.
They basically grew up together. Because they're young, but they've come into adulthood together, and they're adults now. They're adulting together. Anything that any word of advice you want to throw out in terms of healthy relationships? Because seems
so
like you guys
actually
have a nice thing going there.
You talking to us, or?
Yeah, I'm talking to you guys.
You want to throw out
the couple? Yeah.
Maybe I would say one thing that I've definitely learned is like communication is key. How you say things matter. Your delivery matters, and it's important to take accountability on both sides, because it's easy to place blame, but it's not as easy to put the blame on yourself.
Okay.
One thing I could say is listening, because there's a difference. And I struggle with this. There's a difference between like actively listening to the words that are coming out of her mouth versus just listening to them, just listen to the whole overall messaging and not really listening to what she's saying. So that listening is important.
Okay, listening and communicating and taking accountability.
I love that. I was gonna say, I love that they've been together that long, because it's literally like you're growing up with someone, and it takes a lot, because throughout this time you make mistakes. There's a lot of forgiving, and there's a lot of growth. And I love that you guys have been together that long, and that is all those points are super important, and it takes time to learn, but there you go.
Yeah. So anything you guys want to say to wrap up?
I'm just gonna put my information in the chat. I'm on Instagram, and I'm a breakup coach, so you guys can find me on Instagram. Desireee and I are doing a group in May. It's gonna be on a Sunday. We'll get the dates out there. It's called Men versus Women. And it's basically where we have men and women talk about issues that they want real answers to. And the people that are on here are just so raw. Like, they're going to give you the answers that your partner may be scared to tell you. So yeah, you can join us for that.
Yeah, this is actually a part 2, because the last one we did, we just couldn't fit it all, but it was intense. It was honest. And it was really fun. Everybody loved it. So yeah, look forward to that.
Nice.
And I'm gonna go ahead and put my stuff also, do it in the chat. So
okay. Well, you guys know me. I'm not gonna put my stuff in the chat, but thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for contributing. Next month we're gonna be back on May 15th with my good friend Erskine Alexander, who's also a licensed social worker and a mental health therapist, and we're going to be talking about Black men and mental health. So again, thank you all for coming. If you didn't get the IG, I definitely have both Des and Dawn tagged on my page, so you can get it from there too. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Camila.
Thank you, guys. Bye.